How often did you send a text message or email only to realize that your words didn't land as intended? That sinking feeling in your stomach. I felt it for sure, more often than I care to admit. And my heart is literally pounding just thinking about it. Now imagine if you could see through the eyes of your reader before hitting send. What if AI could simulate that perspective? How much more confident would you feel about your message? Today, I'll take you on my journey from an awkward and overconfident teenager to a psychologist specialized in effective communication. Along the way, we'll explore the danger of autopilot thinking and how AI can play a surprising role in teaching us perspective. My journey begins in Hamburg. I'm 16 years old, thinking I've got life all figured out. My best friend Frank comes to me and says, "Jonathan, I really want to find a girlfriend. Can you help me?" He thought that I was the expert. So I shared all my wisdom on how to stand and how to act and what to say. And wow, I truly cringe at all the weird advice that I gave. And spoiler alert, my way didn't work for Frank at all. So months later, Frank comes back and says, "Didn't work, Jonathan. What else can I do?" And I have to say, I don't know what else you can do. And the look on his face of total despair, it did break my heart, because I didn't know how to help him. Years later, Frank became Franka. Frank was now living as a woman. He was happier in a serious relationship, and while I was thrilled, it got me thinking too. Because three things had happened. First, my initial perspective was on autopilot. I was trying to solve his problems like they were mine. I didn't even consider how Frank saw the world or even himself. Second, Frank's transition was a huge surprise. Only that shook me awake to reevaluate everything that had happened before. And lastly, seeing things from his perspective, that changed how I understood his real needs. This last step, of course, and very unfortunately, came years too late. But this early experience demonstrated to me that putting yourself in someone else's shoes is very difficult, but very important. And my inability to help Frank set me on the path to becoming a psychologist. During my psychology studies, I started learning much more about those three steps. First, that autopilot in our brain, Daniel Kahneman coined it System 1 thinking. It's a type of thinking that is quick, shallow, but also requires little effort. If you ever got home from work in your car and you couldn't remember the journey, System 1 thinking was driving you home on autopilot. But when something out of the ordinary happens, like a roadblock, that surprise triggers System 2 thinking. A slow and deliberate process, System 2 can open the door to considering a new perspective, to literally take a new route. And well, changing perspective in the long term, and maybe even your mind, now that's really hard. Try arguing things like geopolitics or suggesting the latest action movie to your loved one who really loves rom-coms. From the brain point of view, it's very difficult to change automatic habits. But what if we make changing perspective a habit itself? I think that is where I believe AI can come in. Because AI has the potential to simulate the human-like feedback that can surprise us and thereby help us reconsider our perspective when communicating. And let's face it, our world may need some help with perspective taking right now. While we are more connected than ever, we also feel more disconnected and misunderstood. Parents on WhatsApp, politicians, brands. For example, over half of all new products launched every year, they don't survive the shelves. They are discontinued. The majority of young people feel disconnected and lonely. And how often have you felt like not really getting what certain people are saying? And this miscommunication is expensive. Brands lose millions on bad campaigns, relationships break, and even democracies would work a lot better when people have more perspective for others. Maybe the only thing that actually gets better with more misunderstandings is reality TV. But again, these 3 steps come to mind. When crafting their message, people are often on autopilot, and their gut feeling is that everyone thinks and feels just like them. This is then often followed by the surprise when the message doesn't resonate, or worse, backfires. And only very rarely do people actually change their perspective and mind. So, this was the world that I found when I finished my studies in psychology. A clear lack of perspective and an obvious need in the market. So I wanted to create a tool that can help people understand others' perspectives more easily. And so I did, and founded Neuroflash, a company which uses simulated neural networks, which are nowadays referred to as AI, to predict audience reactions to words in text. In the corporate world, that's called market research. But really, it's nothing else than a high-tech perspective-taking tool. By using AI, we can turn predicted audience reactions into the necessary surprise that helps communicators think about the meaning of the words before they send them. It's like AI glasses that have perspective lenses, helping copywriters to literally see the world through the eyes of their audience. And it worked. Big brands launched award-winning campaigns, and our analyses prevented million-dollar mistakes. But while I was helping brands to write text with AI perspective, I was about to face a personal challenge that would put my skills in perspective taking to the test. My mom got diagnosed with brain cancer, and our family coped by trying to squeeze a lifetime of memories into what we thought were her final years. We explored the world together and experienced many new things. I loved it, because I love experiencing new things too. Luckily, by the way, she is still very much alive and the cancer is in remission. But fast forward 2 years, my dad gets a diagnosis for a precursor to leukemia. He has 3 years to live tops. And here's how my perspective taking unfolded. Again, in 3 steps. Like on autopilot, I wanted to repeat the past. Just like with Mom, I wanted to go out and explore the world together, finish his bucket list. But to my surprise, he didn't have one. My dad didn't want to do that. He wanted to live his remaining days just living, nothing special. Being open to that perspective of his wasn't easy, and it took me a long time to accept. But the experience with my parents also brought me full circle, reminding me of that crucial lesson I learned years ago with Franca, that seeing the world through someone else's eyes can help connect us with the people we love. But even I struggled a lot, because as I said, it's very, very hard to change perspective, and even harder to make changing perspective a habit. But that is exactly where I think AI can help us create a perspective-taking habit, because AI can act as a tool to jolt us out of our autopilot System 1 thinking, much like the very human experience with my father. Right now, AI works best when writing text. When talking to humans, it's still about listening and grounding your autopilot mind. And perspective taking is not a skill that we can develop overnight. It must be trained to become a habit. But if you do, this habit of allowing surprise can foster the openness to transform perspective taking from a simple exercise to a profound tool for better communication, to build meaningful, deep relationship with the people you love. So, what have we learned on this journey? We have seen how autopilot thinking can lead us astray, how surprises can shake us out of our comfort zones, and how changing our perspective can transform our communication and even relationships. When writing text, we can already use AI to surprise us. For everything else, we must listen. So I'd like to leave you with a challenge. Think of someone in your life, a friend, a sibling, maybe a parent, and reach out to them. But don't hit send right away. Read your message as if you were them. Be surprised by what you may find, and then, only then, send your message. And when they respond, listen to the unexpected. Approach the conversation with no agenda other than to understand. And who knows? You might just find that in understanding someone else better, you understand yourself better too. Thank you.